You all. I welcome you all to today's episode, which is our fifth episode of Something in the Air. This is a series, which is a series of conversations with women on television and radio, women in broadcasting, who have been really pioneers in this field. And in this series, we've already had 4 episodes. We've tried to have a kind of a diversity in terms of geographies, in terms of genres, in terms of the kind of historical context in which these women worked and created a path for some of us who followed them. It's been a very interesting journey, and I'm really happy that today we are going to have our 5th episode. And this series has been curated by Parumita Vora and I. And so I welcome you on behalf of IAWRT, which is International Association of Women in Radio and Television, and we are the India chapter. Today we have our guests, 2 very, very formidable women. And I will actually ask Swati to introduce them later, but I just wanted to give a little bit of a context that in today's episode, we are going to be talking about the period of the 1990s, which is actually a very, very interesting period because it is the period when technologies were changing, when new infrastructures were coming in, satellite television was coming in. It is also a time of liberalization and globalization. And at this time, women were being addressed as consumers through advertisements and through all kinds of things that were happening in India, Miss India and Miss World, and all those things were happening. But at the same time, this is the period which is very interesting because women actually not were consuming media, but they were also now getting into the area of producing content, producing media, coming in front of the television. And as far as news genre is concerned, which was always considered to be a male domain, and women were only asked to read the news. This was, again, an area where women stepped in and started creating newsrooms, creating policies for news, whether it was on Doordarshan, and then later it was on private broadcast channels. So this is a very, very interesting phase, and we have 2 wonderful guests with us, K.A. Beena and Bano Haralu. And I'm going to ask Swati to introduce them, but it gives me great pleasure today to introduce Swati Bakshi, who is a member of IWAT. She's part of our IWAT community. And Swati Bakshi is a multimedia broadcaster and journalist. She has worked with All India Radio, Doordarshan News, and BBC World Service in Delhi. She's currently finishing her doctoral research at the Center for Research and Education in Arts and Media at the University of Westminster. Her work explores the interrelations of lived space in sci-fi cinema. So that itself is sounding really very interesting, Swati. She also teaches global news cultures and writes for national and international news websites. So I'm going to hand over to Swati now, and I just want to say one thing, that this particular episode is being recorded live on Facebook, and also we are going to have a Q&A session. So looking forward to that. So over to Swati now.
Thank you so much, Shikha. And I'm so glad to be a part of the series, Something in the Air. I've been following it, but today I'm here as moderator, and I won't spend much time on expressing my happiness, though. I'm going to introducing our special guests for today's session, Bano, Haralu, and K. Beena, who have worked in radio and television since the 1990s, as Shikha mentioned. And I'll try to condense their long careers in few words. It's not that easy because the world of news is so complex and so complicated to navigate that, few words and sentences would just give a gist of what women have been doing, but still. So I'll begin with Bano Haralu, who is famous for her extraordinary work of saving the Amur falcons in Nagaland. So all of us have seen her pictures, but she's an alumna of A.J. Kidwai Mass Communication Research Center at Jamia Millia University in Delhi. She passed out in 1987 and joined Doordarshan in 1989 as a TV reporter. She was stationed in Assam and reported from the entire Northeast region. And after NDTV collaborated with Doordarshan, she started filing stories for NDTV and later quit Doordarshan to join NDTV in Delhi. And this job took her back to Guwahati, where she set up NDTV's bureau in Assam. So she traveled across the entire Northeast, covering insurgency, violence, elections, and disasters. She then moved to West Bengal, where she reported on the political violence in Bengal in those years. This is 2000s. And including incidents in Nandigram and the rise of Trinamool Congress there in West Bengal. In 2009, Bano finally quit NDTV and later started focusing on environmental issues in the Northeastern region that she continues to do today as director with Nagaland Wildlife and Biodiversity Conservation Trust. She's a recipient of Chameli Devi Jain Award for Outstanding Women Media Persons and also Nari Shakti Award. So this is just a glimpse of what Bano has been doing. Our second guest, K.A. Beena, has worked across the mediums of print, radio, and television, and she is a senior news editor and producer who has worked with All India Radio in Kerala, as well as with Doordarshan. Beena started her career as a print journalist with publications such as Kerala Kaumudi and Mathrubhumi. She later joined Indian Information Services in 1991 after working with DAVP, that's Directorate of Advertising and Visual Publicity under Government of India. She joined AIR in 1996 as the news editor and then moved on to Doordarshan later on. During her time at AIR, she worked on the news and current affairs programming like Vaartha, Tharangini and Vaartha, Veekshanam. Apart from being a journalist and news editor, she is an author of various children's books, novels, short stories, as well as scripts for many radio programs. She has also written books on the history. She's written books on the history of radio in Malayalam called Radio Kathayum Kalayum. She's also won the Ladli Media Award for her work in Kerala Kaumudi and the National Award for Best Radio Documentary Script as well. And currently she is writing a book on the history of women in media in Kerala. So this is all I could condense all of this into the decade-long careers of women who've been around since 1990s and shaping and playing instrumental roles in how our broadcast media has taken shape. We will talk about the current phase as well, but we'll begin with the stories. And I welcome both of you, but I'll begin with Bano first of all, and then Beena ji, I'll have special questions for you as well. So Bano, first of all, when I started reading about you and I came to know that you have spent your childhood in various cities of Northeast region of India. So you were in Dimapur, then you were in Kohima, you were in Shillong, you were studying in Shillong as well. So tell us something about your childhood in the sense, how was the home environment? Because your father was in Indian Administrative Services. So tell us something about your growing up years in the Northeastern region.
Hi, Swati. Thank you. Thank you for the question, because it really, I think, is the answer is where, the entire seed of my outlook on the region begins. Because as a very young child, my father was in the Indian Frontier Administrative Services, which was the Northeast Frontier Agency, which was largely the entire region of the Northeast, barring Assam. And he was amongst the pioneering administrators in that area. So in fact, he was there during the Indochina War, and also he became the first DC of West Kameng, because Kameng district was then a united area. So as a very young child, I remember my childhood in Bomdila, and then traveled, as you said, in Kohima, where he was called by the government to become again the first DC from Nagaland, first Naga DC as it were. And then we then went on for my education, studied in Shillong. And then in my profession, later on in life, I began to see how important it was to have been connected with all these various areas of the region. So that helped me tremendously to 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 put myself and be connected with the culture and the tradition and the temperament of the people. I think for young people, for young parents, especially in the Northeast, the sense of connectedness, I think, really comes as a child of having the opportunity to be in various places, and also to have been associated with people from different parts of the country while during my school years in rural Shillong.
Right. So I actually guessed it that could probably be the reason of when you went into journalism as a career, that would have really played a major role. But I'll bring in Beena ji at the moment. Beena, you wrote your first book at the age of 13.
Yes.
So I remember I was being, I was being forced to read at that age probably, but you wrote a book already. So how, were you inspired by someone? Was it at home, your mother, or anyone else who inspired you?
Yeah. I was in 1977. I was selected from India as a participant in the international children's camp, pioneer camp in Soviet Union. The Ukraine, the places where now the war is going on, Kiev and Crimea. So from India, some 15 people, children were selected, and I was from Kerala. So I went there. I spent there in the Kiev, Crimea, and Moscow. We were traveling and we were staying there and attended the camp. Some 5,000 children from 150 countries participated in that international camp there. So coming back, I was in class 9. So I started writing my experiences in that camp and Moscow and Ukraine like that. So that was published in the leading magazine, Mathrubhumi Weekly, and next year it was published as a book. So now that is 40 years over, and every year the editions are coming. Now that is Beena Kanda Russia, that Russia Seen by Beena was my first book. Still it is being published. And that was a very best childhood experience a child can get like.
Yeah.
That was, yeah.
So that was like the first expression of you being a writer and later on a broadcaster and producer as well.
Yeah, broadcasting also. That time when I came back from Soviet Union, the local radio, the Quantum radio station interviewed me. And that was my first experience as a broadcaster. And still I remember that moment. Entering the studios and being interviewed by a senior, that uncle-like person. And it was my best memory in my life.
Yeah. So, Bano, I'll come back to you with regard to your career, the way it started with Doordarshan. So, you did mass communication at that point in time when mass communication had just started in Jamia. I mean, it was the second batch that you were part of. So why did you actually want to do mass communication? Because it was not like you had many people in front of you in terms of taking inspiration as journalists. So what led you to studying mass communication?
Swati, no great response to this. It was something new that was there, and I had an opportunity to, immediately after my graduation in LSR in Delhi, it just happened to be there. The courses were being advertised, so I said, all right, let me see what this sounds like. Interesting, radio and television and filmmaking we know so little about, and so that's when I appeared for the examination in Jamia, and I think I just happened to be one of the few, I think, who applied from this region. And I think at that time, I'm not quite sure, but yes, Mr. A.G. Kidwai, he had a terrible fondness for this region, I think, and he wanted to accommodate somebody from there. And in fact, just the other day, I came across a letter that he had written to our higher secondary secretary education and saying, why are you not giving Miss Bano Haralu a scholarship? She is going to be an asset to your state and to your people. And, you know, he really gave him a long lecture. But I'm not sure whether I got that scholarship or not. But yeah, it's there in the record. So largely, I think due to people like him who had a vision that there would be a role for people from that region to be represented in this new growing technology. So I owe him a debt of gratitude for that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so when you started working, you opted to go back to Guwahati?
Yes.
Or
yes.
were you given the choice?
I was. Actually, my post was for the Guwahati Doordarshan as an assistant news editor. But I was stationed in Delhi for a few months, 5-6 months, I think. I don't quite recollect now. But it was immediately after our training. We went through a rigorous training, you know, the 50 of us who were shortlisted. Very interesting times. And for me, I was freshly coming out of MCRC, where I also knew Shikha from there. And it was interesting to go back to the Film and Television Institute of India and learn something which was not part of our course. Television journalism was never part of the course in MCRC, although we had wonderful teachers and grounding in mass communication and the media and so on. But broadcast journalism as such was a very new field. So that's where we learned the, some tools and tricks of the trade, as it were, with excellent inputs from trainers who were brought in from Germany and from England, and who sat with us and trained us in the rules of production. And all these things happened in FTII as well as in Delhi, in the Civil Fort complex. That's how we were launched into journalism. And ultimately, yes, I think there was a need for somebody in the newsroom to go back to Doordarshan Guwahati. And I was the one to be the one to go there. Yeah.
Right. And Beena, what about you? So so for you, entering into print, how did it come about as a career choice for you?
Yeah, I was from my childhood onwards, I wanted to be a journalist because my father was a journalist, but he couldn't pursue. So I don't know, somehow I wanted. But after finishing my pre-degree, like 2 days +2, I got admission to Patrick Lumumba University in Moscow for medicine. But I didn't went. I thought I'll be a journalist. I will not be a doctor. So I went to journalism. Then that time I was the third or fourth batch in Kerala University journalism. So I joined there. Then from there, after the camp, I have finished my post-graduation. The paper invited me, if you want to join, you can join. That time also I was writing. From my school days, I started writing. Like journalism, actually I started my journalism from my class 10 because almost throughout my college days, I was getting my pocket money from writing, journalism work. So I entered the Kerala Kaumudi. From there, I went to Mathrubhumi group of publication. Then I got the selection for the Indian Information Service. From there, I went to Doordarshan, All India Radio. Those experiences were there. That time in our class also, girls were very few. Only 3 of us were there in Kerala University, and 22 boys were there. 3 girls and 22 girls. So it was like journalism was not a career for women those days. So when I joined my paper, in that newspaper, there was also, I was alone. So when I went to the All India Radio, I was the first news editor of the state. So even politicians were wondering how the women journalists will do this like that. Then they started representing to our headquarters that no, in Kerala, a women journalist cannot work as a news editor like that. Then my officer said, you should work like But
Why can't?
luckily, I don't
Did
know.
you ask why women can't?
Why? That time, it was, nobody was seen there. I was some 32, 33-year-old at that time. Then people were wondering. One day, I have a very like funny experience. One political leader, he was a very famous political leader. He called me in the newsroom and I took the phone. He said, okay. He thought I'm a news reader. He said, give the phone to some responsible person. I said, I'm the news editor. I am responsible. He said, no, I have to tell to some responsible person. I have to tell the person about some press conference or something. I said, sir, please tell me I'm the news editor. So that much of that something was there. But actually, I'm lucky that I could 2, 3 or 3 times I got the best news editor award, like honorarium and all those things in All India Radio and Doordarshan.
So it would be really interesting to know your experience as the first news editor there in Kerala. So this is in Thiruvananthapuram, right?
Thiruvananthapuram, All India Radio.
So when you arrived there as news editor, what were your responsibilities? Were you expected to set up this section in terms of programming, how the news would flow? So what was your day-to-day responsibility like?
Yeah, in almost all states of all districts of Kerala, we have correspondents, part-time correspondents, full-time correspondents. Morning, I have to, once I'm doing the 12:30 bulletin, I have to coordinate all the districts, collect news from them. Then I have to arrange all the news and make the news what is like it should be like. Then I headlines. Then some sound bites are there. It should be incorporated like that. So much of tension was there, and for me, it was like conducting a musical program. I used to say I enjoy the newsroom, no. So I used to say it's like conducting a musical program like that. I was doing that. Then for 13 years, I was there. Then so many bulletins. I don't know the number of bulletins I have produced. Then we have programs. Like every day we were having current affairs programs. Then we were having Vaartha Tharangini. It's a newsreel program. So people will be collecting news by program bites from many places of Kerala. That's the cassettes where we are using cassettes. So from cassettes, then we went to schools. From there, we went to CDs. Then now it is very pakka, this hard disk and all those things. So I was going through the transition. I was thinking, yesterday I was thinking, what should I say? In Akashvani and All India Radio and Doordarshan, I was going through the transition of this updating to new technology. And when I went, that is the thing.
So we'll come to your experience of starting and initiating some news programs.
Yeah.
But I want to ask Bano here, when you arrived as the reporter, I think there were no reporters at that point in time because there was no news channel apart from All India Radio and Doordarshan. So how was the initial experience? Because you were actually ground making for reporting from Northeast.
Right.
Well, was that experience of going and talking to people? They would be new to see even someone coming to them.
Yeah. So unlike Beena's experience where she had the local station where she would report, the state news, I was plonked right into Kendra, which was already working for the local news. There was this local Assamese news that would be out, local Assamese bulletin that would be out daily. And I was there to report for the central newsroom, which was in New Delhi. So I had to make adjustments within the requirements of the local Kendra, as well as for news which was required for Delhi. So it was, adjustments in the sense, the availability of the crew, the units, the vehicle, etc. Because, the Northeast, like, you have to travel, and those years, we traveled mostly by road. So it was long journeys and very interesting episodes also. You would, finding myself in that newsroom, fortunately, I had very supportive bosses, staff, my news editor, Mr. Hitesh Medi, who's still in touch with me. He was a very professional and experienced journalist himself. So he often guided me on many of my initial coverages. But yes, going out to the field and getting people to talk was interesting initially, because I found this cultural difference very, very apparent and very acute, in the sense, in the Northeast, in those years, you would find very difficult to get somebody to speak to you on camera.
Yeah.
But whereas when I later on, a decade and a half later, when I found myself in West Bengal, there was no problem. People would just, in fact, you had to keep people away from the microphones. But it was quite the reverse in this region. But by and large, there was curiosity with, a traveling team of people with cameras, and most often they always thought we were shooting a film, not a news, So for them, like, to tell them that they would be seen on the news that same evening, it was something quite amusing, I think. But
so
yeah,
your crew, that I'm guessing that it was all male crew.
yeah, absolutely, all male crew. And you're just, how old was I? Very young, mid-20s or so, and then you're like having to be the main person on whom the entire crew is relying on you. And as Beena mentioned, we grew with using this pneumatic cameras. These were, tube cameras and ikegami cameras. They were heavy, and they had an external recorder, and you had these pneumatic tapes, which were like 3/4-inch tapes. And so you needed a cameraman, you needed the sound recorders, and you needed a tripod, somebody to carry the tripod. Yeah, I mean, other matters aside, coming out from MCRC, you've been taught to help the crew, and you must carry your own equipment and roll up your mic cables and so on. I did all of that, but there were specific people to hold all this. So every time we traveled, there would be 5 of us, including the driver. And so you get stuck at a road because there's been a landslide, or there's been too much snowfall, or there's a sudden bund. All these things, you just had to take it in your stride. And also going in the at night, like sometimes there's a bomb blast, or there's an incident, and then you just have to go with this crew. And often, in those days, we relied on ambassador cars.
Yeah.
And they were not in the very best of conditions. But nevertheless, yeah. So
Bano, it would be really interesting to know that as a young woman reporter who's just, in early 20s or maybe in mid 20s, was your crew ready to listen to you? Because, if you talk about people who worked in Doordarshan, they know that camera persons who are senior, they have a certain idea about themselves. And when you tell them, I want that shot, they would ask you, are you sure?
Yeah, I don't know what they said behind my back. There must have been lots of stories, but I mean, like, up front with me, they followed suggestions, instructions. I don't know, not orders, but definitely. And also the added advantage, I think, was they all knew I came with a degree and a training, and also most of the crew, except for, like I mentioned, the sound recorders or the tripod boy, they were local boys. But the main cameramen, they were always from outside of Assam. They were outside of the region. So, and since I was from this region, I think they probably respected my judgment or my approach to the news coverages that we were doing. So in that sense, I didn't have that much of
resistance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Beena, my question to you about you being news editor and calling the shots, as we call it. How was your experience of starting news programs? Because you did start a couple of programs. You were doing programming. So, how was the experience of initiating that? How was your newsroom in the sense of taking responsibilities or taking? Maybe you were giving orders as well. How was the environment of working, and did women join you later on?
With me, in the news, nobody worked. The news, that's news editor or reporter. In the All India Radio, if you are the news editor, you have to do reporting also. I have to go outside also. So if some VIPs are coming or assembly session is going on, so that time nobody in the Kerala assembly also, no other women journalists were there. So I have to go there also. Morning I have to go to the assembly. I have to report all the assembly proceedings and come to the newsroom and write the stories for the afternoon bulletin or evening bulletin, like that. So then when I was in charge of the newsroom, I have got the chance to open two programs, like two important events in All India Radio Trivandrum. One is News on Phone. Every hour we'll be updating news on phone, the machine. So people can phone that is now it is a primitive thing, no? But that time it was like, no, people were very thrilled from Gulf countries, Middle East. People were calling, and we were the number of calls were shooting up, and we were getting so much of money also on India Radio. So that news on phone, in my time, that is in 2006, I think, we started that. Then that time in FM radios, no news were there. No, government were very reluctant to give permission to FM news channels. So from Kerala, we started in 2007, I think, from Trivandrum and Cochin. So I got the chance to start that also. So I was we took some 15 newsreaders come translators as cadets. So I could train them, and that's a very good experience to work with young people, young journalists. And then I was very thrilled to start this program. Then I got the chance to conduct, organize the 50 years of Malayalam news in Kerala. That Malayalam news bulletin, 50th anniversary. It was a month-long program. So as the head of news, the region, I could invite all the chief minister, all the ministers, all the Adur Gopalakrishnan, like all the dignitaries, celebrities from Kerala, writers, filmmakers, artists to All India Radio, and interview them. And in front of the premises, we organize big events. Then that time it was a very thrilling experience, because we conducted the news, we broadcasted the news from the stage. Now it's very easy, but that time it was a huge 2-3 days. The engineers were struggling to put the studio in the stage and all those things. Then we were saying that we are live from the studio, from the stage of in front of All India Radio, like that. So those experiences, now so everything is easy because of the coming of the new technology and all those things. Then the other thing, all these experience I could write as the history as a book, 2 books. I wrote 2 books on radio. So I could find out the history. I was tracing the history of the women and the men who paved the way for us. So I think in Kerala, Malayalam broadcasting started from 1938 from Chennai, now Chennai, at Madras. So it came to Kerala. Before independence also, there was station in Trichy, near to Kerala. Now it's not in Kerala. So those things I could go through, I could find out. And that experience was very interesting. So, and my favorite medium is still radio. Audio medium is still,
yeah, mine too. So, coming back to Bano's experience, and then I'll come back to Beena, you asking about other transitions that you have gone through over years. But Bano, your presence in the Northeast is a very good opportunity for us to look at how Northeast actually fared in news agenda. In terms of, news has always, all over the world, it's not just about India, it has a certain idea about mainstream and the margin. So the mainstream is always, it's geographically located as well, and it's mentally also that, for instance, politics would always be on top, and central politics would always be on top, and regional politics would come later on, and then there would other regional hierarchies as well. How did you report, in the sense that were you able to report the stories that you wanted to report, or you just had to stick to the mandate and the stories were not like, they would not accept the stories that you would probably want to do, and that would not go into the news bulletin, those kind of experiences? How did Northeast actually, you think, fared in news agenda over the years?
It's a combination of the things that you said and also more, because let me just start by saying that while I was with Doordarshan, you had to toe the government line in terms of reporting on issues of insurgency. And at that time, it was the rise of the Ulfa and the other insurgency, which was the Naga Indo-political talks, were quite in the background. So these, with the government, agency, the Doordarshan, the monopoly of Doordarshan at that time, it was not very easy to talk about, the other side story, as it were. But I also, in a sense, I feel a little guilty in the sense of having stereotyped the region, because most of the images were mostly of bomb blasts and incidents of violence and ethnic clashes and so on and so forth. So these images, I feel, have also reinforced what this region appeared to look like to the rest of the world. The other thing, of course, was that television per se, I think, when I reflect on it now, is not the right medium to be discussing these long drawn political issues if you don't give it that time. And the other important thing, very important input, is that those who are at the news desk, who are the editors, I think it's really important for them to have a sense of the region and to have a working experience also perhaps of the region, to really understand that everything is not politics. There are many intricate details. And I think television as a medium rarely allows for these discussions to really be held. And I think stories are best told in the television genre, like when something has been achieved and there's something really positive to share, or a learning experience. And so as I see what I did, or what I was allowed to do, or I was able to do, the other constraint, of course, was the issue of, like I said in yesterday's conversation, was the issue of connectivity. Because we had, it's much better now, but the flight connectivity was less, and to travel from one place to the other, it takes hours. It just was testing. And the of course, when I started, or when I was with Doordarshan, to send stories to the central newsroom was fine, because you had the uplinking facility. But when I switched to NDTV as a reporter, I didn't have access to uplinking facilities. We had to actually literally run to the airport to catch somebody who was going on a flight, and request any stranger to please carry my cassette. And those days, security was not as much as it is now, and people were kinder, I think, also, and more patient. and they were understanding. And I have like hundreds of passengers who very kindly carried these cassettes and packages for me to be collected by the rider from the NDTV office, and then it would be sent to the office, and then later on you would follow it up with your news report.
So it's interesting that how state media enables you in certain way as a reporter working from the field, and also disables you in a certain manner in terms of how you're going to report as an individual who has choices but then doesn't have much choice. But moving on to NDTV, like you mentioned, so you mentioned a part of it, how technology played a role in how you could find stories as a media person. But did it change something for you in terms of reporting when you moved from state-run media to private media to NDTV?
No, not really, because I think the same sense of the medium, the television medium, the requirements of the medium really drove the stories, as it were. So violence was a great part of what would sell. If there were so many people killed, if there was great damage, in terms of the political stories, there was much more, what I would say, much more leeway to go after these stories. But other social developments, social issues of say, like there's been a water crisis, or there's been fluorosis in the water content, or things like that would not gain that much, would not have that much of a not importance, I wouldn't say importance, but there would not be such a large agreement to cover these kind of stories. But definitely, if there's been an ethnic clash, if there's been of course, floods were a regular part of one's reporting. In all the years that I've been reporting, it was, whether it was the floods in Kaziranga or the embankment of the breaches, and the really terrible floods in Pasighat in 2001. So these of course were given a lot of play and a lot of plays, but hardcore political state politics, which affects the population in these areas, didn't have much of space in the news bulletin. And largely, I think, because the medium, as we know, is driven by TRP, and the MPs, the member of parliaments of the Northeast, are just 24 members, so they hardly have any politically influenced. Yeah. So in that sense, I think when you look at the larger picture, we were somewhere lost in the big picture, the region, except for, like I said, stories of immediate insurgency and violence, which always took precedence over other issues, whether
it's so interesting,
which would not happen in other states.
It's so interesting that through your experience, we can actually see how this idea of federalism and how the relationship between the state and the center plays out in news agenda, and how it hinders reporters from actually reporting on issues that they could actually report, but they're not expected to report. So, Beena, on that note, you were mentioning that some MP called up the newsroom and said that I don't want to talk to you, I want to talk to someone else who's responsible. You are responsible. So in terms of selecting and covering, because you said that news editors were also expected to cover news. So who was telling you to cover? It was that the news agenda, what is going to be covered, with the hardcore political news, if you want to cover that, were you allowed to do interview, or they would send someone else to do it? How did it work?
No. In All India Radio on Doordarshan, when I was working, that genders in the description is not there for this collection. I don't think so. So, and I am the head of the news. I have to assign myself for going now. So that was not there. So whatever news I have to collect, I could go like that. So then, as Bano was also saying, the news selection of news, collection of news, everything, Doordarshan and All India Radio has its own that some typical way of this. But that is, I think it is positive also, because after all these news channels came, now I know the plight. Now we know, we are seeing the plight of the people. No, the development news is being discarded, and nobody is giving any importance to news. The majority, all the news is center about the celebrities, some political leaders, some silly incidents like that. Like that, as Bano was saying, the larger perspective is not now not in the news. Still, Doordarshan and All India Radio is the only channel media attending common people's issues. No? So I think we were doing all those things when selecting this Vaartha Tharangini program. We were doing importance to tribal people. We were giving importance to women. And for me, the thing is, the gender perspective is coming. When I was in Doordarshan, I had a very, very like bad experience. Like some 19 newsreaders were complaining about a makeup artist. They were saying that for years we were suffering his harassment, but all the news editors and all the head of the news were men. We couldn't comply. So when the women news editor came, they complied. So this much, the participation is very, women should be there, no, in serious posts. Otherwise, yeah, the women angle or gender perspective will not be there. Even in the language, in the local language, if I'm not saying that, we were using in the press or media, or even the All India Radio was using many words against gender sensitivity. Now we are, after we were in the, if I'm in the newsroom or somebody else in the newsroom, some woman in the newsroom, we say that it is not there. We were using in Kerala, we were using for rape, manabhangam, like one word we were using. Then the women say, no, you should not be used that. You should use the correct word. It's not, manabhangam means we are losing our dignity. Like, yeah, we said, no, we should, in All India Radio, I said, we'll not use that word. From the beginning itself, I said, I will not use. We'll use, it's like, it's a rape is an attempt to destroy the person. Like that, those words we should use. Like that, when women is there, that gender perspective will come. I'm feeling that. Selection of the news, selection of news readers. When I was there, if we are selecting some 50 news readers, 30-35 will be women. So that much of participation will be there for women in the media. Like that, I feel like that.
Did you consider women as your audience, in the sense that did you do over the years, because you're working for so long? How did your programming change in terms of assuming that you have this much of audience out of which women form part?
Yeah.
Did it inform your programming? Did you do something special for for target particular section of audience, especially women?
Yeah, the thing is, if we are working in the newsroom only, we can realize that. For us, every news, like we know what is the news for women, but a man cannot understand that, no. So we'll be giving all the important news for women, like if this Kudumbashree in Kerala, we have a large group, like women self-help groups are there, no. Some 45 lakhs women are members of that. When I am the news editor, I remember that the formation of that Kudumbashree, I was doing special programs. I was giving special news about that. We were interviewing people like that. But men said, why this is like a self-help, introduction of a self-help group is not good. Not that much of an important news. They were saying the political thing you can. I said, no. We should give importance to women's group. Then the Women's Commission started. When I was the news editor, the Women's Commission started. 4 days we were giving news for that. When that much of support we can give when we are in the key positions. We have to, yeah.
That's what, because the presence of women in the newsroom means something in terms of
Very well.
selection in terms of
Well,
selection and
the
editing.
language also, language.
Yeah, the language as well.
Yeah.
Coming to the transitions that both of you have seen in terms of both technology and the way media has evolved and changed. I'm saying evolved, but I'm not very sure about the term evolved in terms of Indian media. The way we have just transition from 90s to 2000s. But because both of you were there and seeing the changes, the proliferation of news channels, satellite channels and all, what did it mean for both of you? Bano, I'll ask you that, did it change anything for you in terms of reporting, because there were other channels in competition? So did it mean something that, you know, you would do something differently, or you would bring in some other program or something like that? Did it change anything?
Yeah. So one of the big changes, I think, in the reporting was the availability of life linkages and the presence of the mobile vans, so the OB vans. So that really changed a lot of how news was viewed, and also it added to the rush, and sometimes there would be mistakes on reporting, and it would be difficult to undo it. So I noticed all these issues, and so it of course added a lot more pressure on reporters in the field, because the number of reporters have not grown in the field. You're still the same one man bureau, with the same constraints of travel, and time remains the same. But at the same time, what we saw was that you really you needed to up your ante, as it were, and also uh, begin to start looking at events and news in a different way, and also try and because you're now in competition, as it were, with other news makers, there was a lot more. You would try and look for more unusual kind of news stories to look at, or even if they were similar subjects that you were reporting about, you would try and find something more. So in that sense, I think it did add to bringing out different perspectives, and how you would look at say, for example, how you would look at a development story, or an environment story, or even political stories. How many people's views you could get, how many groups you could reach out to. So these became important inputs. But at the same time, I just wanted to add to what I was saying earlier about television not being quite the right medium to talk about these political issues if you're not willing to give the time. Because when you compare the discussions on Kashmir, and you just on air, and you compare the time that has been spent on understanding the complex politics of any state in the Northeast, it's just, there's no comparison. So so I was referring it to in that context. I wanted to just make that clear, and and also to add to Beena's point of view, where yes, in Doordarshan we had a lot more access, and I would say freedom, and there was much. The editors also were much more liberal in terms of allowing people to express themselves, to allowing to reach the people, as it were, so that the people tell their stories. So that was much more, there was much more leeway with that kind of reporting. Whereas in the private news channels, like I said, it was much more TRP driven, and the stories had to be vetoed, and before you could actually go and shoot, and it had to be, it had to have that element, and naturally so, because we did a rough calculation some years ago, and for a 1-minute story, the television station would be spending around 2 lakh rupees So that's a lot of money.
A lot
It's
of
a lot of
money.
money.
Yeah.
So today you can well understand why many stations don't have that kind of reportage from the ground, because it's expensive to gather this kind of news. But still, having said that, I think the new medium, the social media medium, has really allowed for different aspects of this region. I'm talking about the Northeast, which have not been explored or shared or even narrated. So there's a platform, and now young people are using the medium to share these stories, whether it's about travels or cookery or songs or folklores, their own stories.
Basically,
And so
life, how people live their life and
how people live their life,
know about this.
And I don't know, I'm just jumping your questions, but I just really needed to share this because it's going to, it's like I see it happening in Nagaland. I see it happening with the Naga story. Now there's a generation of young Nagas who will tell their own stories. When we could not say it, when we could not narrate it, they will today tell their own stories.
I was actually going to come to that after the clips that we have of both of you. So a couple of questions more and questions.
And I have to add one thing Bano said. What happened now in the transition, that in the absence of news editor is happening now. Actually there was a news editor, no? Now so in social media, now they are going
dangerous also.
Absence of the news editor is everywhere, because in channels also they are like reporting live. Nobody's there to say, what not to say. It's going live.
So Beena, we'll come to you after the clips that we have to play. We have to show a couple of your,
Okay.
So after that, we'll come to you and we'll talk about how 90s and 2000s, coming to 2000s, meant a kind of change for you. But before that, I'll ask Edgar to play the clips that we have of both of you. Wonderful clips. I've already seen them, but I want everyone who is joining to see them.
Okay.
Mahesh, but that's
Welcome to Victoria Memorial. This magnificent building made with white marble from Rajasthan was built in the memory of Queen Victoria, who died at the age of 94 in 1901. It was then the Viceroy of India, Lord Curzon, who proposed that a structure be made in her memory, and he proposed that this structure should stand amidst a huge garden with a museum housing artifacts which relate to the British rule in India. Lord Curzon's suggestion for a suitable memorial to the Queen was placed before the public. The Viceroy's appeal for funds drew generous response from the princes and people of India. The entire construction of the monument cost 1 crore 5 lakh rupees and was met from these voluntary subscriptions. The design and plan of the building was done by Sir William Emerson, President of the British Institute of Architects. Emerson's earlier work include the famous Crawford Markets in Mumbai in 1865. Now based in England and approaching 60, he appointed Vincent J. Esch, a generation younger than him, to supervise the work. The work of construction was entrusted to Messrs. Martin & Co. of Calcutta.
Okay, so that was...
going to really, like you mentioned, playing field as to whether the BJP has really come to a rule, as it were, or the Lotus is really going to...
Conservation efforts like the largely successful fight to stop the hunting of the Amur falcon in Nagaland, were helped along by images of the slaughter.
Definitely the images played a very, very big part, because as after these images were all over, splattered all over the internet and the newspapers and magazines and so on,
For sure.
when we communicated with the people in the village, especially the fishermen, they were also astounded that to see that within their community that there was so much hunting going on.
Conservation efforts
ഈ സ്ലംഡോഗ് മില്ലിയനർ ചെയ്യുന്ന സമയത്ത് ഞങ്ങളാരും ഒരിക്കലും പിന്നെ സ്വപ്നത്തിൽ പോലും വിചാരിച്ചതല്ല ഈ സിനിമ ഇത്രയും വലിയൊരു വിജയമാകുമെന്നു. ഈ സിനിമയ്ക്ക് ഒരു റിലീസ് കിട്ടുമെന്ന് പോലും നമുക്കറിയില്ലായിരുന്നു. ഈ ഒരാഴ്ചയ്ക്ക് മുമ്പ് തന്നെ, ഈ സിനിമ റിലീസാകുന്ന ഒരാഴ്ചയ്ക്ക് മുമ്പ് തന്നെ ഈ സിനിമയ്ക്ക് ഒരു സാധാരണ പിന്നെ വിതരണക്കാർ പോലും എടുക്കുവാൻ തയ്യാറായ ഒരു സിനിമയല്ല. പിന്നെ ഫോക്സ് സെർച്ച് ലൈറ്റിലെ ഒരേ ഒരാളാണ് ഈ സിനിമയ്ക്ക് വേണ്ടി വാദിച്ചതും. അങ്ങനെ ഒരു 3 തിയേറ്ററിലാണ് ഈ സിനിമ ആദ്യമായിട്ട് റിലീസ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. അവിടുന്ന് രണ്ടാമത്തെ ആഴ്ച അത് 17 തിയേറ്ററായി, പിന്നെ 25ആയി, 30ആയി, അതിങ്ങനെ വളർന്നു പോയി. ഇതൊരു ഫിനോമിനനായി. ഒരു 80ഓളം ഇൻ്റർനാഷണൽ അവാർഡുകൾ, ഓസ്കർ നോമിനേഷൻ മുൻപാണ് ഇതൊക്കെ വരുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ ഇന്ത്യയിൽ അതൊക്കെ അതിന് മുമ്പാണ്, അതൊക്കെ വരുന്നതിന് മുൻപ് ഈ ഇന്ത്യയിൽ സ്ലംഡോഗ് മില്ലിയനർ റിലീസ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ ഞാൻ ആ സമയത്ത് ഇറ്റലിയിൽ ഒരു വർക്ക് ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുകയാണ്. അവിടെയാണ് എനിക്ക് ആദ്യമായിട്ട് ഈ ബാഫ്റ്റ പിന്നെ നോമിനേഷൻ വരുന്നതായിട്ടുള്ള ഇമെയിൽ കിട്ടിയത്. എനിക്ക് വിശ്വസിക്കാൻ പറ്റുന്നില്ല. ഞാൻ അന്ന് രാത്രി ഉറങ്ങിയിട്ടില്ല. അപ്പോൾ ഞാൻ ആലോചിക്കുന്നത്, ചിലപ്പോൾ ഒരു ഓസ്കാർ നോമിനേഷൻ കിട്ടിയാലോ. തിരിഞ്ഞും മറിഞ്ഞും കിടക്കും, ഉറക്കം കിട്ടുന്നില്ല. പിറ്റേന്ന് ഞാൻ രാവിലെ നേരത്തെ എഴുന്നേറ്റ് ഞാൻ ഒന്നുകൂടെ ഇമെയിൽ ചെക്ക് ചെയ്തു. അപ്പോൾ ഇമെയിലിൽ കിടക്കുന്നു കാസ്റ്റ് നോമിനേഷൻ. ഈ സ്ലംഡോഗ് മില്ലിയനർ ചെയ്യുന്ന സമയത്ത് ഞങ്ങളാരും ഒരിക്കലും പിന്നെ സ്വപ്നത്തിൽ പോലും വിചാരിച്ചതല്ല ഈ സിനിമ ഇത്രയും വലിയൊരു വിജയമാകുമെന്നു. ഈ സിനിമയ്ക്ക് ഒരു റിലീസ് കിട്ടുമെന്ന് പോലും നമുക്കറിയില്ലായിരുന്നു. ഈ ഒരാഴ്ചയ്ക്ക് മുമ്പ് തന്നെ, ഈ സിനിമ റിലീസാകുന്ന ഒരാഴ്ചയ്ക്ക് മുമ്പ് തന്നെ ഈ സിനിമയ്ക്ക് ഒരു സാധാരണ പിന്നെ വിതരണക്കാർ പോലും എടുക്കുവാൻ തയ്യാറായ ഒരു സിനിമയല്ല. പിന്നെ ഫോക്സ് സെർച്ച് ലൈറ്റിലെ ഒരേ ഒരാളാണ് ഈ സിനിമയ്ക്ക് വേണ്ടി വാദിച്ചതും. അങ്ങനെ ഒരു 3 തിയേറ്ററിലാണ് ഈ സിനിമ ആദ്യമായിട്ട് റിലീസ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. അവിടുന്ന് രണ്ടാമത്തെ ആഴ്ച അത് 17 തിയേറ്ററായി, പിന്നെ 25ആയി, 30ആയി, അതിങ്ങനെ വളർന്നു പോയി. ഇതൊരു ഫിനോമിനനായി. ഒരു 80ഓളം ഇൻ്റർനാഷണൽ അവാർഡുകൾ, ഓസ്കർ നോമിനേഷൻ മുൻപാണ് ഇതൊക്കെ വരുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ ഇന്ത്യയിൽ അതൊക്കെ അതിന് മുമ്പാണ്, അതൊക്കെ വരുന്നതിന് മുൻപ് ഈ ഇന്ത്യയിൽ സ്ലംഡോഗ് മില്ലിയനർ റിലീസ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ ഞാൻ ആ സമയത്ത് ഇറ്റലിയിൽ ഒരു വർക്ക് ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുകയാണ്. അവിടെയാണ് എനിക്ക് ആദ്യമായിട്ട് ഈ ബാഫ്റ്റ പിന്നെ നോമിനേഷൻ വരുന്നതായിട്ടുള്ള ഇമെയിൽ കിട്ടിയത്. എനിക്ക് വിശ്വസിക്കാൻ പറ്റുന്നില്ല. ഞാൻ അന്ന് രാത്രി ഉറങ്ങിയിട്ടില്ല. ഈ സ്ലംഡോഗ്
all the glorious years in some pictures. That was. So, Beena, I'll come to you about the transitions that you face. And this is the last leg of questions, and then we can take questions from people who are listening to you and watching you.
Yeah.
Coming from 90s to 2000s, and we have spoken, Bano has spoken about it, how it changed and what it meant for Nagaland as a region itself. So for you in the newsroom, what changed in the sense when digital technology came? You said that you were already experimenting with various kinds of transmissions and broadcasts. when digital came, how did it change the newsroom? And also, did more women join you gradually in news?
Yeah. The thing is, no, in All India Radio, when I was started, we were writing in paper. News, we were writing in the newspaper, and the newsreaders read from that. From there, everything changed. That typing, desktop typing came. Then after that, from the newsroom itself, it goes to the air like that. That changes there. And so much of this voice casting. Previously, it was very difficult. No, we have to physically, introduce the cassette to the cassette recorder and play that in between. The newsreader should stop, then should go like that. From that, the computerization has revolutionized the newsroom in All India Radio. From there, I went to Doordarshan. When I entered the Doordarshan, the system was like fighting. But within months, it changed to electronic news processing system. This was the first regional news unit in India to introduce ENPS in the Trivandrum. So everything changed. So we have more opportunities where we could experiment with news. So my colleague was somebody, he was also very enthusiastic and was very innovative. So he tried all the measures, and that year I think we got the best RNU award, Best Regional News Unit Award in India because of this our performance. So that transition I could go. That also helped the content of the news as much of the news format of the news also changed. So we could fight and we could have competition with other channels. In Kerala, we are a media savvy people. We have so many news channels, television channels. I think very famous news channels. People are sitting in front of the television and watching news all the time, like that, or watching TV. So in that situation, Doordarshan has to fight, actually fight. We were fighting. When we were there, we were fighting to catch people in front of the Doordarshan channel, Doordarshan news. So, and we were giving special trust to the language, the pronunciation, everything, the content. Our private channels were discarding it. They were not giving any attention to news, that language of the language, everything, the style, language, everything we were concentrating that. So that change, I think it is positive for me, and I was so happy. And the participation of women's issues, we were having a daily, when I was there in Doordarshan, we were having one program, Vaartha, that is behind news. And news hour program, we introduced that, and that was there. So we were introducing new women for channel discussion. Now everywhere it is there. Now the news channels everywhere. But we were also trying to introduce those things in Doordarshan that time. So we took. Then one day I have to fight with my colleagues, because whenever some issue is coming, women's reservation issue or women's day, they'll say, call all the women. Now today is Beena's day. You call speakers and participants. I said, no. For women's issues, you should call men. We know our issues and we know how to deal with it. You ask men to. So they allowed me to call men for the as panelists. Like otherwise, they will be calling only women to women's issues only. So I said no.
Did you see any change in attitudes? Because you're talking about the sensitization part of male colleagues. So did you see any change in that as well, in attitudes?
Yeah, attitudes they have to, because they will not call any panelists for serious issues. When I went there, they will be calling for political issues. They will call all the men. For women's issues, they will call women. That I said, we know to speak about, we know to talk about politics. We know literature. We know science. We know the world. We know environmental issues. So call women also. So when I worked there only for 3 to 4 years, but that time I could maintain that equilibrium. For that we need, we should be there. One woman should be there in the newsroom. Otherwise, they will not think. They are taking it for granted. So, okay, women's issue, let you call all the women. All the other issues, politics, no. Who is there? Now, nobody is there. I should be called there. That's much of, that they're simplifying, Yeah, I think
Yeah, so I have many more questions, but I think I'll restrict myself to two last questions.
Yeah.
And one is for you directly, and one is for both of you. So my second last question is, you have been part of Women in Media group that
Network of Women in Media.
Network for Women in Media. So how did it come about, in the sense that why and when did you all actually feel the need to form this kind of group and become a kind of, if I can say, interest group or pressure group? So how did it come about to this consensus that no, this is the time that we need it? And this is also a development in terms of how women have worked or negotiated media.
Yeah, the thing is, before that, we were all scattered. We were all scattered, and we don't know. We were very confused. Women were very confused in many places. They were having so much of problems. They were complaining that they are not assigning any political beats to us. They are only giving this art beat or fashion beat or cookery beat, like that. No, they were feeling very bad. They said, why we can report anything, but they are not giving like that. Then so much of sexual harassment were happening for the new generation. They were complaining. So this Network of Women in Media evolved. It's a national group. So in Kerala, 2010, we organized the national meet in Calicut. So all the women journalists in Kerala, they united. We formed the conference. The conference was very successful. After that, we started working in groups from Trivandrum, Cochin, and Calicut. And as a coordinator, I could manage all the so many issues. We took many issues. Once one channel introduced some like honey trapping. The channel, So the Metrocom Mini Media took that issue, and we went to streets. We started demonstrations. We started demonstration and the strike in front of that news, that channel office. All those things were doing, and after that, I think we could control. We have a voice now, so we have a voice. So
so this is this is a very important development of this age, particularly because it needed this kind of mobilization. WMI represents. And this brings me to the last question. And this is actually, Shikha has also, she has asked this question on chat, and this is both of you, but Bano, I'll bring you here particularly because this is particularly about private news channels, how news evolved in terms of television. So when you look back from here at this point in time, when you have worked so much and you are now doing something which always remained on the margins that we were discussing before, environment and conservation, that never formed part of the main news agenda. So Banu, how do you see television news today? What do you think about it when you look at it at the moment?
That's a very, very big question. But to be very brief, I mean, I do share that sentiment that, that environmental news reporting, which I really struggle to understand why it never got that place in the newsroom, because it is one of the most political subjects. Whatever you look at, oil, you look at water, you look at resources, and it is the most and it needs the most radical kind of approach to understand or to address this subject, but it has remained on the fringe, and just the numbers get the politics of numbers get played out a lot. But coming to how I kind of view the progression of television news, as it were, in India today. I don't know whether I have the authority or not, but from my experience, I just want to share that I think when we were trained with approaching news very, very objectively. And I think that objectivity is getting lost. And instead of news being narrated, I think it's being dictated. And I think I just, want to just leave it at that. And the views of both sides, which was a very important aspect of our 1 minute reportage. You must get both sides of the view. I think it's kind of lost in the translation.
Yeah.
Right.
The basics of journalism. That is the basics of journalism we were following. And from development news.
Beena, how do you see it today? Because like Bano mentioned earlier that, it has given opportunities to everyone who wants to broadcast themselves. But how do you see it? Do you see the benefit?
This is the thing. This is the from development. No, we started when we were working, that time development journalism was a word. We were working for the people. We were reporting for the people. We were doing bulletin for the people. Now, so where is the word for whom we are doing? For the advertiser, for the marketing section, for the newspapers, they are working for the circulation. They are dictating. Everywhere market is dictating, the TRP, the circulation. So the basic task for development and for the people, that is lost. That's for loss from journalism. Now I see it is only commercial. We were not that time. It was educate people and for the development of people for the people. Now it is entertaining. Only entertainment is. But I think news is also entertaining.
There are a lot of takers of this idea of democratization of democratization that has come with digital media, because it has given tools and empowerment to people who want to tell stories, like Bano was mentioning. But I have a question for you, and this is from Padmaja. She's asked that state broadcaster and also the commercial ones are cutting back on costs with much less resources to spare for real news coverage. How is impacting women's place in newsroom? Do you see that the cutback has actually impacted women's presence?
But as government officials, there will be the government officials will be there. Government, we are all government staff, so it will be there. Then the contract staff and all those things, the casual staff. I think women's presence, it will not be cut like. They need women. They need for the face, to present in the television channel, Doordarshan or private channels. They need women. So there we will not put the salary cut. There many other things are there. The young journalists are complaining many things. There that job security is not there. They have so much of work is there. Long working hours are there. They have to yield to their male colleagues, many fascination. So much of that, those problems are there. So that is everywhere.
Right. So a question which is related to this, and this has come from Shikha again, in terms of, like you were mentioning, that women have been there and they will be there. So she's asked that casual workers as announcers and news readers, which has become a norm now, it has a gender dimension to it, as more and more women are now being hired as casual workers. Where they do not have room to negotiate for better working hours or remuneration as well. And this is also connected to the sexual harassment incident that you were mentioning. So some this kind of precarious job condition, it has affected women majorly. Do you agree to that?
Yeah, women, many women, the thing is, they have actually the family situation and family setup in India is the same. For being a journalist or other people, other work, we have to do the journalist or the woman has to do the household work also. So this pressure is very much. So, and they have to work in the journalist, as a journalist or as a media person, they have to work hard, their long working hours, evening hours, they have to look after the children. Crushes are not there, not the old working hours are there. So from one girl in Trivandrum, she has a 2-year-old child. No crush is there. She has to work up to 2 o'clock at night. in the newspaper. So where will she put the child? So many problems are left for the media women. Then nobody will give a house to a girl who comes after 9 o'clock. No hostel will allow. So many, such problems are there for the women in media. We are addressing all those things. Network community media was addressing all those things. We were representing to government, the state government. We were addressing the Women's Commission to solve all those issues. Such physical conditions should be better for so many women are there. In our time, Bano, me, some one or two people will be there. Now women will be there in the newsrooms. Now there are 10, 20, 30 women are there. They are also there young. They are having children. They are having other problems, and these problems should be addressed, I think.
So have we arrived at that stage where we are addressing these issues, where we are addressing?
No, addressing, we are like network community media is always giving representations. We are conducting seminars. We are asking people to go. Some problem is there. We are going to the news editors or the directors of the news organizations, and we are negotiating. But not much improvement is there. No crash. Where is the crash? We never saw a crash where we can put the journalists can after in the night hours.
Even traveling at night also. Huh?
Yeah, they have to travel, even traveling.
Yeah.
That problems are still there. For us to in the government, we are protected. No, we'll be getting vehicles after to go home. After 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, we'll be dropped. But for a private channel, they will not be having money also for hiring a vehicle. The channel will also be going through pressure. Financial,
So there are so many issues even after 20, 30 years of news media, serious broadcast media experience.
So many, the problems are like
they have remained there since
the
beginning, and it seems as if nothing has changed. Maybe things have changed for certain people in certain organizations, but not in general. It's not the norm. So, Bano, I have one more question for you from Akishe El Jaka, and they want to know that how different medias were transitioning or entering Nagaland in your time. So, like you mentioned that this region has been stereotyped, and much of what forms the discussion about Nagaland or Northeast has been through insurgency in every kind of literature. So it will be interesting to know how media was arriving and if it worked for the people or the region to represent themselves. Did you see that happening with more and more news channels coming up?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think that has been a significant change in the way this region lately has been interpreted, maybe not only for on the political front, but with documentaries on tours and travels and the Hornbill, the famed Hornbill Festival and cookery programs and so on. In that kind of way, there has been inward journey of other media houses to come and focus on the development of the state, and with the growth of what do you call them, podcast websites, the YouTube, the mobile journalism. So there has been an opportunity even for politicians from this region to participate in some of these discussions, and also with the neighboring state of Assam having many more channels. There's been definitely more opportunities for lately, more opportunities for politicians to talk about some of the hardcore political issues that have been haunting this state. And very recently, in the last couple of years, we have also seen the coming about of two television stations. One is called Hornbill TV, and one is Nagaland TV, which have come to take root in Nagaland, in Dimapur, in fact, where the town I am in. And interestingly, Dimapur is not the capital of Nagaland. But it is here that all the media houses are based, whether you talk about the newspapers or now the television channels. It is here in Dimapur because it is the most cosmopolitan place and accessible by rail and air. And so I guess, but you know, the secretariat and the assembly is based in Kohima, which is about 2.5 hours away from here. Yet, so in that sense, again, the possibility of live telecast, of live interviews with the politicians who give the news, that is still having some limitations. But I think because the medium now allows you to telecast from almost anywhere, it is in a sense bridging the gap. But this is where I feel that the training of young men and women in the discipline of journalism becomes really important. And whether we in this region, if those institutes alone are enough, and whether there is an opportunity for young journalists to interact with senior journalists, and also whether these media houses have the wit to allow the travel and which is really expensive again, to give a fair coverage. These are, I think, questions that remain to be covered and answered.
And there's this last question to both of you, because I've made you talk so much for the past 1.5 hours. So I just want to put the last question here. And this is about Prasar Bharati and private broadcasters who have been doing some amount of programming and researching, which gave insights into how women's issues are to be dealt with, for instance, but suddenly the only thing that matters or appears to matter is TRP. So both of you, from your experience as producers of media and also audience, do you think that it's only TRP that matters at the moment, and we do not see anything productive or anything that makes any significant difference to women's life, particularly, that's happening across radio or TV? What are your thoughts on it, both of you? If anyone can answer.
I think I'll be very brief on this because I rarely now watch television. But having said what I said, I think I think right now TRP, of course, is a major factor for driving, the news subjects. And as far as Prasar Bharati is concerned, I think there's still a lot of catching up to do. And in terms of the professional programming and the post-production work, so I think that otherwise, Doordarshan as a monopoly and as a news house, as a media house, the footprint of Doordarshan is huge. It's massive. And it really can be an agent of change, but you have to put the money where your mouth is. Really.
Beena, what do you think?
Yeah. Serious thinking should be done on this subject. No? Women's issues, I still feel that it should be more time, more energy, more money, and more interest should be given to women's issues. I don't think any channel, Prasar Bharati, Doordarshan, All India Radio, anyone has, we are peripherally, we are discussing, no? We are not actually, even the toilet issue, simple issue, no? That also we are being, nobody is giving attention to that, those things. And in, I was now, I'm writing a book and a work on the 50 reservation and the 50% reservation in the panchayats, the 73rd amendment. So what impact it has done to the women in India? I traveled to some 8 states, the rural, all the villages, many villages. Even I couldn't find a toilet, or I couldn't see many women panchayat presidents, because their husband or their father or son, they are talking to me. These women, they are still in the Tungat, and they don't know they are Panchayat presidents or the Panchayat members. So that political participation is still a myth in India. After this 50% reservation out, without political participation, I don't think any problem or the tip of the iceberg we are just showing on the television and all the media. Actually, women are going through many issues, women's issues. Nobody is addressing women's issues, and even the basic issues, we are not. The media is not bothering to. We are going after celebrities. We are going after unreal issues or peripheral issues. So we have more to go. We have more, we have to go so many kilometers to go. Just started. It will take years.
Absolutely. Yeah, long way to go.
Long way to go.
Long way to go.
The problem with me is my language. I am working in Kerala, and I'm not like a prolific English speaker.
That's not a problem.
Yeah, that is
Not
the
at
thing.
all.
No, I have
that's not a problem at all.
Yeah, no.
I'm a hardcore.
I have so many ideas, but I cannot what I want to tell. I cannot express it fully like.
That's the same for me. I'm a hardcore Hindi speaker from Uttar Pradesh.
Yeah.
So I understand completely.
Yeah.
Then I speak many languages.
So
Yeah.
Yeah. And Bano, I think one thing that I missed talking about, I mean, because there was limited time in terms of talking about the broadcast media experience that you have, it's so vast, that your environmental experience in terms of pushing through the, and how did it actually interest you? We could not touch.
Okay.
If you could just let us know, how did you, was it your way of, taking a revenge that, you did not do it, now I'm going to do it after leaving you?
I don't think it was a revenge, but it just the opportunity presented itself. And really, I think, like I shared very briefly, that I always have felt that environment is a very, very political subject. And it didn't, I couldn't get that platform which I wanted. But also at the same time, I think the opportunity of having traveled across the Northeast really gave me the experience of a close-up experience with nature and what happens when you don't take care of nature. And so, well, to cut a long story short, actually, it's just my brush with the migratory Amur falcons in an area which I had been to some 25 years ago, when I saw these turbines being laid in the Doyang Reservoir, and that is where these birds come. And it's amazing how the circle is like being drawn right in front of my eyes for me, and I'm walking that circle, drawing that circle, because I went back to this reservoir, after this area after so long, and we were a team of us, 4 of us, and we didn't have a place to stay, but somehow I remember that we'd stayed in a guest house over there, So I found out the number, and it just so happened that the manager there was somebody who was had been working at another hydro project site which I had gone to cover. So he remembered me from those years, and that's how we found a place to stay for the night at area. And interestingly, it was the last time I was in that Doyang Reservoir where these migratory Amur falcons visited, was, I don't know, somewhere in like 2000 something. And Kalpanath Rai had come, and he had come to inaugurate one sector of that hydropower project. And I had taken his interview, and I was going back, and on the way back, I had to cross a forest area, a reserve forest. And this was a stretch, and I'll finish with this. This is a stretch where wild elephants would come out on the road, and for months, like, from the newsroom, those years I was in Doordarshan, they were trying to come into, they were trying to photograph this phenomenon where these elephants would come out. So it's not 2000, it's a little before that. So they would try and come out and film the elephants trying to take the fruits from vehicles, passing vehicles, lorries, and so on, cars, and so on. And suddenly, like, you would see that at the end of the stretch, the approaching ends of the stretch, there were like many fruit stalls that had come up. And I didn't know about this, and I was wondering why there's so many fruit stalls. And suddenly I remember that, okay, this must be the stretch where the elephants come out. And so we had some sugarcane and some bananas, which, some lorry, some truckers had very kindly given us. And we placed it on top of the ambassador, just the driver's, just in front of the driver. And this absolute experience, like, I quickly rewound Kalpana Rai's interview, 10 minutes of it. I erased it completely. God, it was the back of the vehicle, and at that time the cameraman was too terrified, he couldn't move. So I went back to the back seat and I just filmed the whole episode of the elephant coming, putting his trunk into the car, taking out the fruits. And then, it was amazing. And before that, in the lorry in front of us, he took out tufts of hay from a truck which was filled with this hay, and it was going somewhere. And the driver didn't have any sugar cane, so he didn't let it pass. And all these things were happening. It was just a movie being played out right in front of us.
How fascinating!
Wonderful, yeah. So that's been my brush with nature and environment, and every time, it's challenging. We come up. People are the most challenging. I mean, not so much. Not so much. Nature and
amazing. Oh, well, so it was amazing talking to both of you, and now we have to end it here, unfortunately.
Yeah, otherwise we'll just go on.
About the experience.
We can go on like this.
No, that'll be terrible.
I'll ask Shikha to wrap this up.
Okay.
Something in the air. Thank you so much, Beena.
Thank you.
Thank you, Swati. It was lovely talking with you.
Yeah.
This has been really wonderful conversation. Thank you so much, Swati, for taking this on. And really, the conversation was so intimate and so lovely. And the way, both Beena and Bano were also in a way, complementing each other and, kind of broadening the whole horizon of the conversation, whether it is politics, whether it is gender, questions of environment, questions of, even things like toilets for women, so many wonderful, ideas, and, it's opened it up for us to think about, what the experience has been in terms of broadcasting, and also in terms of, the changes in the infrastructure and technologies. And of course, this whole thing of the, region versus the nation debate, so many questions have come up. So really, thank you so much, Bano, Beena, and Swati.
Thank you.
And before we end, I want to thank, shout out to Paromita Vora, the co-curator and one of the architects of Something in the Air. Thank you so much, Paromita. I also want to thank Samina Mishra and Subhashri for our office bearers who have done fantastic behind the scene work for this episode. And also I want to thank Edgar Fernandez, Debasmita Das, and Nandini Sharma. Debasmita for the poster, lovely poster, and Edgar and Nandini helping us with the production. And also I want to thank Max Miller Bhavan for supporting this event. And before we end, I want to remind all of you that we are going to have another wonderful episode coming up on Saturday, which is a conversation with Anubha Bhosle and Meera Devi of Khabar Lehriya. So I want you people to please mark this in your calendars.
Absolutely.
This is on Saturday at 6 p.m. And this conversation will be steered by Anandana Kapoor. And this, for this particular season, this is going to be our last episode, which has been a wonderful journey for both Parumita and me. So thank you so much. Edgar, we can come back to the Zoom. Yeah. So thank you so much. Good evening and all the best for the rest of the evening.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
we
you,
can
Shikha.
come-
Thank you for putting me in
Thank
touch
you,
with
Shah.
Beena.
Yeah, thank
Thanks,
you.
Beena. Lovely
Yeah,
meeting
I
you.
was in Guwahati for 2 years, Bano. I worked in Guwahati
we
for
never
2 years. I
met.
traveled to Guwahati. You know?
Okay,
Throughout
you must
Northeast,
come
I have
again.
traveled. Yeah, I come.
So we have really connected a lot of
Thank you.
people with each other through
Yeah,
this.
That's
you know?
wonderful.
Yeah.
Shikha, thank
Yeah.
you very much. I don't know how I came to this scene. Still, I
No, you've been wonderful. And I want to thank all the attendees who have watched the episode and also on FP. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
So
everyone.
bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
And see you all on Saturday.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
See you.
Thank you so much. Look
Bye.
forward.